This is a critical time for the registered voters in the Bennington School District. The school district budget is up for a revote on Tuesday, May 21st. This is because in March, the budget did not pass. It is very important that registered voters get out to vote on Tuesday. It's a critical time for the school district. As you know, a vote in May is also during the time in which we are looking at transitioning our students to next year. At this time, we cannot assign teachers to classrooms. We cannot assign special educators to students that they need to support. And so this broadcast is very important to give you the information you will need on Tuesday, the 21st. We will have a hearing, an informational session the evening before on May 20th at 6:30 at the Firehouse on River Street. So I'm hoping that many of you that have questions about the budget will attend that session. Again, the revote will be on Tuesday, the 21st at the Firehouse in Bennington. I would like to have principals today speak to the budget that has been revised. I would like to compliment the principals, the supervisory union, administrative staff, and of course the school board members for really looking at every single line in this budget and using information that has recently come to them in order to prepare a budget that is less in increase than the one that failed in March. The reason for the high percentage increase is a reduction in federal funds. Of course, we have fixed costs that raise in expense, and we need to support our increasing population of special education students. This board, the Bennington School Board, has always been supportive of instructional programs with a sensitivity to the capacity of our taxpayers. This board has been one of the first in the supervisory union to start a computer program, one-on-one computing for students in the Bennington School District. It also has supported the arts. You may have heard teachers talk recently about letters they have gotten called reduction in force. This is because the collective bargaining agreement that we are under with the union requires that we give them notice if their positions would be eliminated. And that notice has to be given today on May 15th. This RIF notice, this reduction in force, is because we have to give them notice before the vote. However, it's very important for you all to understand that all classroom teaching positions and the special ed positions, as well as specialist positions in art and music, are still in this budget. We simply had to give them notice in case the budget does not pass, and we end up having to operate at 87% of this year's budget. If that happens, we will need to cut classroom teachers, and we will need to increase class size. Again, I want to compliment the board and the principals and supervisory union administrators for the hard work and for retaining subject areas like art, music, PE, and library. Donna, would you like to talk a little bit about that?
I'd be happy to. Currently in our budget, the board has budgeted for all of our specialists to continue to be available for our students, which includes instrumental music, chorus, art, music, physical education, and library. Should a budget not pass in May, we are in huge jeopardy of losing those positions. And the arts are critical for all of our students, but especially for some who might not necessarily excel in their academics. Oftentimes a child will find their island of competency in art or music or band or chorus. And elementary school really lays the foundation for what a student might do at the middle school, at the high school, and even at the college level, where perhaps they would be in a band, a marching band at a college level. So it's important for elementary students to experience all of these things, not only with the arts, but certainly physical education. We all know that that is incredibly important for students and children in general. Research is showing that more movement, more brain activity, physical activity.
That's correct, Donna.
Is really helping students to learn better, retain more information, and certainly our physical education is nothing that we want to remove from our instructional practices. Library is another area where we absolutely need to retain that. Not only, perhaps with some of us went to school, we went to the library, school library, we took out a book and we returned it next week. Far different these days. We have technology tied in with our library instruction. It's a multimedia resource for students, and it would be extremely detrimental to their academic educational outcomes to not have that present. So we're really advocating for the public to support this budget. We do not want our arts cut. It's very, very important. It's not just an extra that we might have had in years gone by. The other thing that we're asking the board has supported, we're asking for the public to support in this vote, is our homeschool liaison person.
That's correct, Donna.
This has been a grant-funded position. It's currently reduced to less than a half-time position at Bennington Elementary and Molly Stark, but the increase of student attendance is huge. We're seeing that they're making a huge impact, connection with families. Students that come in at 9 o'clock as opposed to 8:15 are already a step behind. We've worked diligently to get these kids and families in school on time. Excellent. We need them in school in order to continue learning. So that's just a push for the arts program and our homeschool liaisons.
Thank you, Donna. It is very, very important. And these conversations with the board, if you've been watching their broadcasts of their board meetings that replay on CAT TV, you will have seen some of the stress, the unhappiness about discussing cutting things like instructional
absolutely
programmed in instrumental music especially.
Yes.
Also, the home liaisons, the board actually did end up reducing their time in the school to help reduce the budget line, yeah. But those positions are critical. We do have students who exhibit high absenteeism and chronic tardiness. So thank you, Donna.
Right. And we know that leads to, research shows that leads to the possible dropout in high school.
Absolutely.
So we've got to instill in the at the elementary level the importance of being in school.
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is a way, as you listen to the principals speak about the programs, to remember that we are trying to maintain our regular instructional program with strength. Jim, would you talk about the regular classroom teachers and our class sizes?
Sure. This budget does allow us to be able to continue with class sizes that are educationally sound in the sense of student and teacher ratios. The board and the community in the past has been very open and receptive and supportive of trying to have students maximize their learning opportunities. With the class sizes that we have in this budget, it will still allow us to have reasonable class sizes that are in accordance with what used to be called school quality standards,
yes.
But are now just good educational sense, in that younger grades, kindergarten 1 and 2, will be a little bit smaller, so that good relationships can be built and kids can get good patterns of schoolwork and school-teacher relations, academic focus. And yet, when they get a little bit older, into 3, 4, and 5, you can broaden that out a little bit, so that you have more students in a class, but still have a reasonable teacher-student ratio. And obviously, students at those upper grades are a little bit more capable. They are more independent, and we can have those ratios be a little higher. So this budget does allow for some good staffing for students and teachers.
Thank you, Jim. Donna mentioned research-based practice, and Jim, we know that after-school programming assists students in becoming more engaged in their classroom work during the day. And we also know that their loyalty to school and their interest in school increases when they have these other opportunities to enrich the regular educational instructional program. Jim, would you talk about some of those?
Well, we do have the Mosaic program, which is began as what's called the 21st Century Grants. And those are after-school programs. Typically, they've been called after-school and not Mosaic, but we're trying to instill the Mosaic thought in that they're an extension of the school day. They're not just kids hanging out at school in a group. There are academic programs.
That's right.
That are presented with a little bit of a broader context because the groups are smaller and they can have a wider opportunity for students, a little bit more creativity because of those smaller groups, and allowing kids to be exposed to things that they might not be able to be exposed to in a regular school daily setting.
And then one of those is 4 Wins, which actually is a program that's been here for decades, that it allows parents to come into the classrooms to help teach science. Jim, has that been a success in the schools from your point of view?
4 Wins is very, very well liked by students. It's an opportunity for them to experience some environmental science situations. It gives students a chance for inquiry, which is very fundamental, obviously, to the scientific process and students understanding what science is, how it works, what interrelationships there are. The focus is nature, and we often think of nature being out, in the mountains and in the lakes, but nature's right outside our door. And this
at each of our schools.
And this is an opportunity for students to build inquiry skills, learn about adaptability, learn how nature interrelates with itself and with us, because we basically are part of nature too.
Thank you, Jim. We really do want viewers and registered voters to realize that the regular education costs are our predominant costs. They are the expenses that are greatest in the budget. If we go to our chart, you can see that regular education in this pie chart is still the majority of our effort. However, you also will see the next greatest section of the pie chart is special education. There's been a lot of discussion about special education, not only in the media, but in communities and at board meetings lately. We want to make sure that people who are voting on this budget understand that these costs for special education are not additional beyond regular education, that these students are getting extra. These students are getting resources and staffing that support their access to regular education, and also resources and support that help them develop their skills. So we have a skill building part of the special education expense. Then we have the access to regular education. These are fundamental resources that these students need to accommodate or modify their program in order that they can access regular education. Donna, Cauley, principal of Monument School. We've been talking about regular education, but as you know from the description on the chart, we're moving to special education. One of our rising populations in this area is students that have complex special needs, especially in autism, the spectrum of what we call the autistic range of profiles. Would you speak a little bit to that and the resources that we want in this budget to add to that support?
Sure. And I think the point that you made most appropriately, Catherine, is really about students with complex needs or who have been identified with a specific disability do have that same access to our instructional programs, that free and appropriate public education. So our increase in special ed really does tie to what the needs of those students are. So it's not above and beyond what any student regularly gets. It really is about their opportunity to access the same opportunities that we have for all children in our school. So along with my colleagues, who we worked very hard together to look at each line item within our budget and really respond to the board's expectations, and looking back at the budget again and coming back with this new budget, we very clearly provided a graduated list of services. And some of those services, which we're very pleased that the board is very supportive of, include some third-party contracted services, some very important training for our professionals and paraprofessionals so that we may indeed do an excellent job, as we have been doing, but will continue to do with students who are identified, so that they do and have the ability to access our regular education environment. Special education costs, just like regular education costs, increase in general. That's not something different in regards to everything that is happening. An increase in costs are going up, and that also is a part of why you see increases in our budget. But again, I do think that we looked very carefully at each of those line items to really support and request that support through the board, and also through you as taxpayers to understand that these are certainly very clearly identified needs for all of our children.
Thank you, Donna. To give a picture of the increase over time in this budget for the Bennington School District, it would be important to know that this reduction in federal funds really has had an impact in the increase to the budget for next year, for 2014. However, the average increase, because of the federal funds in the last 4 years, and also previous to that, the average increase is 3.93%. So just about 4% in increases over the last 6 years. Also, to give you a perspective, if your home is assessed at $100,000, your payment in the tax increase would be $69.80. If you have a $200,000 home assessed, your increase would be $139.60. So what we need to do is have you gain more information, attend the information session that's being held as a hearing prior to the vote on Monday, May 20th at 6:30 p.m. at the River Street Firehouse. We hope you will attend and ask questions. The vote is Tuesday, May 21st at the Firehouse in Bennington. And ballots actually are available right now. So if you wish to vote early, you can attend pick up your ballot at the town clerk's office here in Bennington. So thank you very much. Any last comments or thoughts as we're ending the program? Donna? Mackenzie? Or
Sure. Well, I think one thing that I just wanted to add is I have heard that there was some confusion at the last vote that our budget included an addition on Bennington Elementary.
Yes.
And I think
it's important to clarify
for the public that there is no money allocated in this budget for any addition. There certainly has been talk about needed space with this BSD board, but that is not something that is part of this budget that you will be voting on next week.
Thank you, Donna. That certainly is correct. We really do not know why the budget did not pass in March, but there was a lot of confusion about the need for space and an addition at Bennington Elementary and future renovations at Molly, but those are not in this budget. Again, the Bennington School District board members have always been very sensitive to the capacity of taxpayers and have worked very, very hard to make reductions in this budget. We hope for your support. Please come out and vote on Tuesday, May 21st at the Firehouse in Bennington. Thank you.